Hi, Tracy.
Hey there. It's really bright where I'm at right now. Steve has a conflict. He's on
Hello.
a call right now. So
Thanks for letting us know,
Oh.
Tracy. Hi, Emil. Welcome back.
Now I should hear you. Hi.
Hi. Hi, Emil.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I saw we just
So-
asked a question in the big channel from someone. Was that the person working on Gitty that just reached out in the big channel and asked for the meeting?
Yes, yes, exactly. So he was just pinging me.
So gentlemen, I should really be jumping off to this other call as well. But I
Okay.
just wanted to let you know that we're here. And the other thing is that as Andrea, as you know, we have elections coming up for the TOC.
Yeah.
And committers can submit. So I would encourage Emil and Ben, you should go for it. Let me get the link in here. So I know I have the link somewhere. Give me a second.
Sure. Yeah, I can take a look.
It'd be great to have some more representation on the board around the CDEvents team. Zoom, there you guys are, chat. There's, that does not look right. That does not look right at all. Wow. That was not right. There we go. Okay. There's the form. It's pretty simple. You just need your bio. They use the bio as part of the election process. And then it gets sent out to, I believe, I don't know how they send it out, to be quite honest, but it goes to committers.
Yeah. So just a reflection. I've seen that this is ongoing. I'm quite uncertain, unfortunately, about my availability during the coming, I don't know, year or so. So that's why I haven't nominated.
I get it.
But
To be
I
honest,
might join anyway, but I might not be part of the board, but I maybe join the meetings when I'm available.
yeah. So just a note about that. I get that completely. I've got myself in so many things. It's stupid. Of all the meetings, though, that I have attended and all the boards I've been on, this TOC is an awesome group of people. And Andrea does a great job of herding cats, and keeping things in order. And we don't often, that's part of the problem with some of these committees. You don't have a good, strong leader and someone who keeps track of things. And so nobody ever knows what we're talking about. And the meetings go fairly efficient. And I would say, don't be too concerned about time commitments. You're really looking at twice. What do we meet twice a month, Andrea?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, sometimes it's a 15, sometimes it's a 30-minute call, but I encourage you to give it a shot. And on that, I am going to go jump on this other customer call that we have to get taken care of.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining
Bye,
today,
guys.
Tracy.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Welcome
And
back, Emil. It's good to see you again.
Hello, Ben. Unfortunately, it's just a short coming back. I will be leaving again for vacations for 4 weeks.
Really?
From next week, I will be leaving for 4 weeks, unfortunately. So I will be quite off.
Well, at least you were able to, see us before the long break. So
hello. Thanks for joining. Let me share the
Hello. Can you hear me?
agenda. Yes.
we hear you.
yep.
Yeah, we can. Okay, let me just share in the chat the link to the agenda. Yeah, it's 5 past, so it's good to get started now. So feel free to sign yourself in the agenda if you would like to. I'm doing it now. And the meeting is recorded. So hopefully that's okay for everyone. If not, please let me know. So we have Martin joining us today, and it's the only item we have on the agenda, a presentation from him. But if there are more topics that you would like to discuss for today, please add them to the agenda as we go, or we could maybe continue the discussion, follow up from the presentation otherwise. Yeah, that said, Martin, thanks for joining us today. So we had some conversation over Slack about the work that you've been doing, and there seems to be some relationship or similarities to what we do with CDEvents. So I thought it would be good for you to join us and present the things that you're working on, and so we can have some conversation about that. Yeah, so that said, I'm happy to stop sharing if there is anything you would like to share from your side, Martin, or I can just keep the agenda on, and if you'd like to just talk, please let me know how you prefer.
I'll just start with introducing myself a bit and then what I'm trying to solve before I try to share my screen. So, hi, I'm Martin, 6543 on as my nick for all the open source stuff I do. So it's mostly Git. If you know Git, it's something similar like GitHub or GitLab. And also Woodpecker CI, that's some CI CD solution, which the core concept of containers as to orchestrate them as steps and have them separated and isolated. Yeah, and one point in time, I thought, well, it would be really awesome that Git could show in the native in the Git UI the CI/CD steps that are currently running and the logs and the result of it. Later on, Git got Git actions, and now we have even the UI already in place to show them, basically. But there is no common standard to send the information CI/CD solutions have to forges. And most of the CI/CD solutions interact by first getting some webhook calls and then returning via, for each forge different, the result via API. So I thought, okay, we have already web requests which are quite standard. Why not use it, the response of such web requests, to indicate new defined standard with its API. So the Forge, if you'd like to implement it, could integrate the CI/CD representation natively. So that's basically what I'm trying to do. So I did create small, minimal, viable spec, to call it that way, which I can share the link to it. Let me see. Keep in mind, it's just really more or less draft. It's not been finished yet. That tries to get things started. Yeah. Okay, now I'll try to share my screen. Hope it works. And that's basically all the latency. If we super fast with the latency. Okay, can you see my screen? Looks like it's
Yes.
nice.
You can see the best desktop background, I think. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I have here stored in Gitty with my custom patches on top of it. I can show the pull request afterwards. So the standard should be really minimal to implement, really easy to implement. So that's also to keep in mind. So the adoption is quite easy. So normally just ignore that, that's the build. It's fine. And here we have some repository already created, and it has some CI configuration, and it, oh yeah, I should start this already. And you get the usual separated web API, web view for the CI/CD tool. Here it clones first, then yeah, it's just some dummy backend, so it prints what you type in, and then I let it fail because I want to have it also failed. And now you can see it interacts like every other CI in webhooks. This is the webhook, and we get a response. I will just restart it. You get a response, and the specification just tells if you have support at this header. If the forge doesn't understand it, it will be just ignored. Yep. But here in this case, it does understand it, and it will create some nice native representation, and you can even get the logs from the steps. To compare it to that is cancelled native action. So you can try, and I hope you understand what I'm trying to achieve with that. And this is done by just two things: the webhook, which the HTTP header, and the API that the header indicates that has this representation. And the main thing about this specification is to describe what types there exist and how to represent them in the most flexible way. So different CI/CD and forges can display them. For example, Woodpecker has just workflows. Then the workflows have steps. Gitty or GitHub have, like, don't know, they call it workflows, which contains jobs, which contains steps. So this kind of mismatch can happen. So in this regards, I just thought, okay, just call it workflows, and workflows can have either steps or sub workflows. So you can encapsulate them indefinite, and then you just let the representation be calculated by the target. Here in this case, I'll basically copy the workflow as intermediate job, and then the steps are displayed as the one single job here to make them nicely fit. And that's the current state, and was going to try to get feedback, and then I got told, hey, there is a CI/CD event consortium trying to standardize things, and in this case, it would mostly fit in to describe the actual schemata. So basically this API, and use the same terms and try to reuse as much possible from the spec. To integrate the CI/CD, the CD event terminology in the woodpecker internals, I wouldn't want to do that because it limits woodpecker, for example. But as intermediate step to communicate things in between, that's quite nice and really fitting. Yeah. So, do you want the spec right now, or like just go with the patch set?
So Martin, just a question there. You said, could you have recursive workflows or workflows of workflows? Was that the case?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could have,
Multi-
because we can encapsulate them as however we want them. Basically, it's the idea of building a tree that has a leaf at the end, which represent the single entity that contains the actual execution. That's the basic idea, because at some point in CI/CD you have some task or some execution. And I guess I go into the spec right now. That's more fitting. Where's my code? Yeah, so the API has two definitions. As basically, either there's an error. I thought some error handling would be quite nice, and keep it really to the minimum. There's internal. So if the CI/CD has an internal error, just tell the via the API internal error, or there's a configuration error. At least the forge can tell, hey, the CI/CD told that there's an error, but it's about configuration. External CI/CD is connected to Redis, to some database, whatever. It's an external error. I have no idea. Permission and validation. You can also really have different error messages in the forge. And all other errors should be handled generic, and neither the CI basically knows what is going on, nor the forge will ever know how to deal with errors from the CI/CD tool in this case. So just at least tell them or represent things, or drop them, whatever you like to implement as receiving side, basically. So if error is not the case you get, then it's the pipeline response. And it has basically one root object. That's the pipeline ID. It should be unique. That should be similar to the core spec pipeline ID. I mean, this is the same idea, uniquely identified. I think it's quite nicely fitting to have a namespace for things. Like example, it could be woodpecker, so you don't have name as a UID collision or whatever. But basically, the spec just has pipeline ID, keep it unique. A title that should then, if the forge want to use, will be displayed here. Right now, woodpecker doesn't have a title, so it's just the name of the workflow, basically, with external. It could come later on. The status, like the core CI/CD event, it's if it's failed, if it's running, or if it's pending. I think it's task. Can't get it right now. But basically, what the current status. Here, I have put more than the core spec, and if we try to fit the CDEvents into it, we should expand the core status at least a bit. We can merge failed and killed, doesn't matter. But for example, skip would be really interested to at least try to forward that information, because there's no execution happened there. And then manual is if you have gated workflows where you have manual have to allow or deny, and then actions happen. This is important. For example, if the whole workflow is blocked, then you have to somehow indicate in the port UI, hey, you have to still start it manually, and here's the link, by the way. That's done in the external UI. That should be set if the status is manually, basically. So the user still has to gets guided to way and is not lost in the native UI in this case. And that's basically the root property, and there can have a list of workflows. Workflows is either a list of a leaf, basically from a tree of steps, and all workflows can have must have a unique identifier that's needed for the dependencies. Each hierarchy can indicate a dependency graph, a name, optional if you want to name it somehow. It can indicate a status. And if it has steps, then there's nothing else besides the step array. We'll go into that later. Yeah, if there are no steps, then you have ZAP workflows instead, which just is a list of workflows again, and so you can encapsulate them to your needs. Whatever the CI/CD tooling, which levels of hierarchy you want to provide, you just use that tool. Yeah, steps. Steps is the idea that you have. Woodpecker has containers, so or in GitHub actions, there are steps are single executions of some plugins or whatever, and they should have a unique identifier. They have a status and they have inputs. That's like a black box. You put inputs in and you get some outputs. The inputs in this case are defined just as commands and environment variables, but since you can always really easily extend specs, you can just, if we, for example, want to extend this specification later on, you can add whatever volume and so on and so forth. But I want to keep this minimal first version as clean and as simple as possible, so the adoption is high, quite high, I hope at least. Yeah, and outputs is basically logs and artifacts. So in this demo, the logs work and artifacts are just ignored because Woodpecker don't have any concept of artifacts. That's, in this case, the user has to create a step to push the artifact somehow or to a registry or whatever. So we don't need that yet. But the spec would be there to show it. And artifacts just tell the name and the URI and type. The logs present URI. There is something go wrong. Thanks, I guess. And basically, you have to provide either URI to a raw log or to a stream. So if you make HTTP GET, either get the plain text or you get a stream where the current running logs are streamed to you. So that's here to integrate things. I also have written some basic RFC that try to explain it, and this is what I'm currently thinking to address next or write about, is that especially the ICD and the Forge should implement this endpoint to indicate that they support this specification. And also, for example, now we get just by webhooks information that the Forge has to pull. But if you want to have integrations like cron jobs, which are set up in the CI/CD, for example, in Woodpecker, there is no way to display them in the Forge UI. So in this case, we could add well-known CI/CD feedback on the Forge side, and the Woodpecker in this case, the CI/CD tool tries to see if the well-known CI/CD feedback is there, gets the endpoint, and defines some endpoint where you can push such events to. Yeah, but that's not yet ready and not finished. That would be a follow-up, basically. The CD event specification would really fit in as intermediate specification for all these APIs which are defined. Oh, by the way, CI/CD feedback, the name is just the next best thing that I came up with. If you have better suggestions, I'm open to rename it to something better. Right. Oh yeah, the pull requests, how to implement it. On the CI/CD tooling side, it's really, really easy. You have to just develop REST endpoint and the conversion. There it is. They have one guy, I love this guy, and he goes to the AWS direct. So import the type definitions, but you can just write them on your own if you'd like to. Here, if it is enabled for the server and the specific repository, then the header will be sent. And the conversion, oh no, that's the REST API handling. And that's the conversion to the intermediate format. It's not that much to get the information poured out. Same goes for Git. I just reuse existing things. The most interesting thing is to how I map the recursive thing for the layer encapsulation to Git. Or is it? Yeah, load tasks.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a bit more, but there are tests here too. And that's flattening the workflows to 3 levels. So you have to do a bit more heavy lifting on the presentation side, basically, if you try to integrate into a Forge like Git or GitLab. That's it. So the presentation is done. I hope for good questions.
Yeah, I actually have several questions.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to start with like a very basic one. So I'm trying to understand the relationship to CDEvents. So is the idea that the CD side portion that you mentioned would support CDEvents and you'd use that, and this would be just like another event sender? Like what's the goal?
The goal is to use the CD event as intermediate format and as terminology.
Gotcha,
So I don't have to just, I mean, it could just use my own, but yeah, there's another standard.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that's what that was. Okay, cool. And then my second question is, well, it's not really a question. It's more of, so we just opened a repo about a month ago, and it's called this webhook adapter, and it looks very similar to what you're doing. And basically what it does, it sends any request from like, GitHub or, whatever. It can be literally anything. It sends it to this endpoint. And then we have an internal library that we're going to publish with it as well sometime in the future, that you just need to put either Git tags or basically Git tags on your strut. And it knows how to convert things just kind of dynamically from that. So it can convert one event to another event seamlessly to CDEvents. So that's kind of like another thing. And then so that's kind of point number 2. And then number 3 was this is a question that I had, is that it seems like I just want to make sure I understand the flow of everything. So basically, it sounds like there's some SDLC data that is necessary for whatever it is you're trying to do, right? With this woodpecker tool.
SDLC?
Yeah, sorry, software development lifecycle. So this is like necessary metadata that is like kind of tool specific, or in this case like woodpecker, right? Versus something that is more like interoperable, like between like tools, like for example, right? Like a pull request, right? Like that's a known concept that is pretty general. But in woodpecker, there could be some other concept that is like tied to a pull request, but it doesn't exist anywhere else. That would be part of the SDLC lifecycle, rather than, I mean, you could argue that pull request as well, but that's kind of the point there. So so it seems like it's kind of muddying the waters here, is what I'm getting at. It's like, it seems like you have this metadata that's required for woodpecker, but then you also have this like other area where like CDEvents could be useful. So I'm just kind of curious, like, where that line will be drawn in your implementation. It's a very broad question right now, but it's more
It's
of like
fine.
what the but I'm just curious what the overall architecture is going to look like when CDEvents is incorporated, and what is the bare minimum you need, rather than injecting all this extra metadata into a CDEvent. If you need to do that, however, there is a CDEvent called we allow for custom events, which will allow you to do that. But I'm just wondering, like, what type of event or what type of flow is appropriate for your project.
So this case, I don't touch it at all.
Okay.
Um, the events are delivered via webhook from the default GT webhook definition, and Woodpecker has already, as many other CI/CD tools, and parsing for this. So I don't want to touch that yet, and we could use some common description for that and add another implementation to that. But this is not the problem I'm trying to solve. Basically, the problem is I'm trying to solve to display all the what's going on, the logs, the status from an external CI/CD tool within the producer of things. Yeah.
Okay, that
for
makes
that,
it. Yeah, that makes it way clearer now, because that's what I was kind of asking. Like, that was kind of like question number 1, like what the goal was, because like I was kind of a little bit confused. But yeah, if that's the goal, then CDEvents makes it totally possible. Like I said, it might not have all the data that you're looking for, but that's not to say that there's things that we can add in the future if it makes sense, right? And then if things are a little bit more like SDLC specific, then that could be potentially a custom event, or even live in custom data. So there's like two avenues where you can kind of utilize that. But yeah, it's really exciting to see, and it seems like, yeah, you've done a lot of work on it. I can tell, it's really good to see that, people are, thinking about interoperability, standardizing on things, and we're all coming to the same page here. So it's really good to see. But yeah, I'm really curious to see kind of like more of a kind of like a long-term proposal, like what the end goal is going to look like, like what the architecture, what CDEvents you're interested in, what CDEvents is potentially missing, like capturing all that inside of a single proposal, I think will really help me at least understand like what the overall goal is, right? I mean, that might be a little big and a little bit large, but the code, like I said, like, I was looking at your code, but like there was a lot there, so I couldn't like get everything, but I was trying my best. But but if we had a proposal that we could just read, it might be a little bit easier for us to ingest.
I just sent the links to the changes so everybody can look things up.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
I basically try to tackle a single problem and not touch anything other like an intermediate format for signaling the events to the CI tool from the board. That's not the problem I'm trying to even touch. That's not just the nice thing is it should be optional. So for example, Woodpecker provides this header and it's connected to GitLab, but GitLab doesn't know what to do with this yet. So it's just getting ignored and the tool works as usual, as intended. And for the whole information, like this event was done because there was a git push or a git tag. If Git implements the standard, it already did the webhook. And since it did the webhook, the exact event which caused it is already known to Git. So Git knows best how to represent it for itself. Woodpecker doesn't have to care why, which event even did the thing. I mean, Woodpecker knows it, but it's not necessary at all for this specification.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then out of curiosity, have you tried implementing any CD events yet? Or is it just something you just found out like just right now, basically? Okay, got it.
I found it out. When did we wrote? I can look it up in Slack. It
was this week. I think.
Wednesday. Last week, Wednesday.
Okay, cool. So yeah, not too much time then. Okay, this looks really awesome though. Really interesting. Like I said, it seems like there's a little bit of overlap too with like the tool we're writing. Well, there's some overlap, but like it's a plugin based tool. So you might be able to utilize that. I'm not saying abandon this project. You could probably take what you have and make it a plugin, because like it's a gRPC plugin, and then it just talks to like whatever plugins are registered to it. But you don't have to do it. But like I said, it's a tool that already exists that we're working on. So it'd be nice, if this is a place where you're interested, it could definitely.
Could you share the link?
Yes.
I'll definitely try to look into it and see if it tries to if it could solve the problem. It sounds like it might be able to, and if not, at least we can share as much as possible terminology and even just I can define from my specification CICD4 spec event. This is how the representation of the data looks like.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I think what's good about this, since you haven't started the CDEvents side of portion yet, this webhook adapter makes like translating from your custom events to CDEvents very easily. That's the goal. Like I said, we're still kind of working on it, but it's definitely something you can keep an eye out on if you're interested. And then if you have any questions on it, like I said, we're gonna make some major updates here probably like in the next week or two, and then that will help kind of facilitate some stuff as well, or some interest of what you're doing. Okay, cool. And then I guess my other question is, do you have any questions for us in terms of CDEvents? Is there anything like you're kind of concerned with? Like, have you had a chance to really dive deep into it? Like where you're just like, oh, this doesn't really make sense for our use case, or etc.
I have a look at it. I have not deep dive yet. Basically, the more I wrote, the more I understand that this is nothing that will fit neither Git for the internal stuff, for the configuration or something like that. Neither is good for Woodpecker and the approach we are doing here. But we could, in any case, write adapters. For example, if CDEvents have some specification how CI/CD pipeline configuration generic one could look like, we could convert it to Woodpecker configuration if possible, or at least try. Couldn't convert. Here's the error. Yeah, just as intermediate format. That's possible, but I won't have a focus right now on it. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think I got it. Okay, so it seems like you're still very early on the discovery process of CDEvents. I mean, you said you just discovered it last week, so it's to be expected. So I guess my question then is like, what are the next steps for you? Like, is the next steps to kind of continue working on this and then kind of like add CDEvents later, or are you gonna try to add CDEvents as you go? Like, I'm just trying to understand like what your scope is right now for your project.
The scope of the project is I proposed first, and I mean I have thought long about it, how to tackle this problem, and this is the first proposal at all, and I'm now gathering feedback, a lot of feedback. The more I get, the better. So if you just write an issue on the GitHub with your ideas, what you don't like at all, or what do you think is nice, that's the starting point. And also at this point, since I discovered CDEvents, I'll try to use as much as possible definitions, type definitions, and so on in this specification, and will alter the specification so it really uses the CDEvent things.
Okay, yeah, that sounds fantastic. That you're so interested in having consistency with what we're doing.
The space
okay.
has no consistency, so
yes.
any is with them.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, agree. That's why we're all here, right? Okay, cool. This, like I said, it sounds really promising. I will go through the code. Like I said, it is quite a bit, and I try to do a quick look through, but unfortunately, my brain isn't that fast, so I need a little bit of time to digest. But my follow-up question to that though is, how hard is it to run this all locally? Is it pretty easy? Because I noticed you had to start like a server.
The demo is
just run the
completely
demo.
locally.
It has everything that I need.
There's no demo in the CD feedback repo yet, but I can just create an Docker compose that just do it for you.
That'd be perfect. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I want to run it and see what it's doing and kind of dig in and see how CDEvents could potentially hook in, and whether or not our tools make sense, or like the webhook adapter, and then where some maybe there's some overlap we can identify versus not, and then kind of just identify in those points. Once I'm able to do that, then I can create, I don't know if you want like just some GitHub issues, or if you want me to ping you on Slack. I can do either one to give you feedback.
Issues on GitHub are better because Slack, I just use it for CDEvents.
Gotcha.
I will open it maybe once a week.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'll spend some time this week running this and getting some feedback, and I'll just create some GitHub issues then.
Yeah. The main issue I found of CDEvents to map it to the schema is that it's really limited in terms of status.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be as much as I'm currently proposing, because for in terms of visibility, you can map things to more generic ones, like failed and killed. It's just error or whatever. But if you could indicate this failed and this is killed, then you can in the Forge side have different icons on different actions. Like if it failed, well, you can indicate in the logs there might be an error. If it's killed, you're sure that this is nothing the a pipeline did wrong. It was killed by a user. It was killed by some CI/CD tooling constraints itself or whatever. Same with manual or skipped. This is currently can't represent it in CDEvents at all, which is kind of.
Sorry. No, go ahead, Andrea. I've been talking a lot. Go ahead.
I was going to say, in general with CDEvents, we try to be very minimal with the definition and, add things by use case. And so, for instance, we have some events related to testing, and there we have some implementers there that using testing, and then they contributed additional things like the skipped test status, and in test outputs, events, and so forth and so forth. So like if you have a specific use case, like specifically in this case, interoperability in terms of visualizing pipelines, and you think, oh, actually it would make sense to have this additional stage, or it would make sense to have these additional bits in the schema. That's definitely something that we are open as a community, to listen to this use case. And especially in your case, it's not a specific tool, but it's more like an interoperability story that you're building as well. So again, we can work on like GitHub issues, or you can come to the working group again if you have specific proposals that you would like to present to CDEvents in terms of expanding the schema.
Yeah, and I think too, to kind of add to what Andre was saying, like we've had a couple PRs where we've spent a lot of time just on status, like debating on like what statuses to add, right? So we're very, very aware of, all the potential statuses that are out there, but like Andrea said, we're pretty conservative on what we let in, just because we want to be careful. But that's not to say that we won't, right? So I think it's really important that like Andrea said, like GitHub issues to facilitate discussion is a big one. If we're able to identify the use cases, the interoperability alignment, then we're more than willing to take it in. But like I said, this is where we need to be careful with adding too much information that's tool specific rather than interoperability specific. So that's the kind of line where we want to be careful. And one of these status, like to give you an example, right? So you had the status I think called manual, right, which is really, really important. And we talked about potentially adding a CD event called like approvals or whatnot. So you would have like approvals and manual things that basically manual type of execution or steps, if you will. So it doesn't need to. What I'm getting at is sometimes maybe things don't need to be a status. Maybe it can actually be like a subject or a predicate or something of that nature, right? It's just more of like, when you're thinking about these things, think about like all the potential areas of where this could fit in CDEvents. So when you create this GitHub issue, you can kind of think about all the proper places that it can live. And that will help us too, if the more descriptive you are and the, the more avenues that you've explored on solutions will kind of help us kind of figure out what the best guidance is in picking a status. But in terms, what I wanted to follow up with that, in terms of manual, I'm curious how useful that, well, I guess if it makes sense as a status, I guess is my question. If it makes sense as a status or as opposed to something else, like another field, it feels like that isn't a status, but it's more of a, like, something was triggered or something of that nature. And then there's like some extra metadata on top of it that says that it was like a manual trigger, right?
Let me just screen share.
Yes, please.
You're thinking too much of an event. This is not about an event, it's about a status. Because there are manual events too. And Woodpecker on this aspect I have here doesn't care at all, because right now only events that are initialized by the Forge via webhooks can be feedback. The second part with the well-known you would fill the gap to let the CI/CD tool fill in such things.
I see. Gotcha.
That's not covered yet, but it should come.
Okay, so my understanding of what manual was like not what you meant. Okay.
I'll try to show it to you. So
I understand, but yeah, you can screen share. But I thought it was just like a manual click of something, but it's more than that. Okay, cool.
So screen is sharing again. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Or is it black?
It's black.
Just black.
Yes. It's black for me. Is it black for anyone else? It was just black for me.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, try again.
No,
is it still black?
Yeah, still black.
But
did it go away?
No.
The same still.
But just,
It
I
worked.
think sorry, just to interrupt there. I mean, we only have 10 minutes left. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, then
There was just one more topic on the agenda. Maybe we could try and spend the remaining 10 minutes on that. But I think, yeah, so it's there are some follow-up discussions. I mean,
yeah,
you said you would create a PR with the Docker Compose, so we can look deeper into the demo. There are certain areas that definitely could benefit from, further discussions. And I mean, as I said, let's start creating some GitHub issues on either side, so we can provide feedback in GitHub issues in your repository, and you can, propose things for us, CDEvents side on the CDEvents repo. And if you think you would like to discuss more, yeah, we can continue the conversation as well in the working group here synchronously. Does
yeah,
that make
asynchronously
sense?
working is the best. I'll have really not much time for around about 2 weeks, but after that, it should be good to go again. I'll try to create the Docker Compose still as soon as possible, expected in 2-ish days.
Great.
Should I just write into the Slack then if it's ready?
Yes, please. Yeah, just ping. Yeah, just and if you could just ping me directly too, because I'm probably the most interested, or ping whoever, but like definitely ping me directly because I really want to like know when this is done so I can like play with it. And I think my Slack name is Ben Powell. I don't know what my actual alias is though. Okay, it says that. Okay, so yeah, just look for me. Just ping me directly, or ping me on when you have that Docker Compose ready.
That's good. Nice.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was awesome to see those. It's great to see that there's definitely people thinking about this space. So I'm really happy that you were able to actually take the initiative to join us as well. Really, really appreciate it.
Sorry, Martin, would you mind stop sharing so I could share the agenda for the last few minutes?
I have to close and reopen Zoom. Zoom just stopped working. I can't disable it.
Oh,
See you.
okay. All right. See you.
All right. Bye.
Okay. Yeah. So we only have a few minutes left. Do you want to bring up the status of Cloud Event Zero Trust, Ben?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna give you guys a summary. It's not gonna take like more than like 2 minutes. But I want to at least give some clarity because I want to be as open as possible with this. So originally I created a PR, but it seemed like after some discussion, it made more sense to be a GitHub issue first. Because it was a pre-proposal, and originally they told me to put it as a PR, but I guess that minds can change. And after some discussion, we decided that it was going to be a GitHub issue. So one thing that was kind of brought to that was recommended when we were talking about Zero Trust is SMIME. I don't know if you guys are familiar with SMIME, but that was one thing that Clemens, he's part of the Cloud Events SIG, wanted me to look at, as well as Josie, and then like I have a few other tools and whatnot that handle metadata for that we could potentially put like signatures, for example. But yeah, that was the update. Is that I just want to say that this got moved to an issue, plus that there was a recommendation for this SMIME header, if you will, that would be used for a potential basket of security metadata. So with that said, if anyone is concerned about using any of the tools I listed, please post on the GitHub issue or ping me directly, and then that way I can make note of it, bring that back to the Cloud Event SIG when I'm talking about the proposal, and then kind of go talk about what works and what doesn't, right?
Yeah, thanks, man. I thought S-MIME is something used for email, but yeah, integrity in emails or something. But yeah, I'm not an expert, so like I'll have a look and I'll feedback on the issue.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. I have no idea where S-MIME was even used, but if it's used for email, I don't know if it's specific to email, but yeah, like I definitely need to look into it. But yeah, if you have any context, Andrea or Emil, Jalander, any of you guys, yeah, please let me know, because like I said, I'm like kind of this is the first time I even heard about Josie. I have no idea what that is, but they recommended it. So but apparently it's another thing where you can house like security metadata.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the update on this, Ben.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah. Anything else? Any last comment, question? All right. Then thanks for joining today. Good to see everyone, and until next week.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Great.
Have a good
Bye.
rest
Bye.
of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.